Hi everyone. The kilt is finally finished. I am very pleased with the way it turned out. Is it perfect? Not even close. But I feel like for it being my first time, I did a pretty good job. Now, this first video is going to be an overview about the kilt and basic information before I get you started on constructing it. Now, right off the bat, I wanted to tell you that I got my information from this book, which I will have linked in the description box, and from Robert MacDonald, Bespoke Kilt Maker, here on YouTube. I'll either post a card up above or a video in the description box, or maybe both. Robert, he is, it sounds like decades he's been doing this. So he's a professional. He moves through it so quickly, but his teaching style is not my learning style. So my goal in creating this video is to put out a video that I wish I had found when I started this one. That being said, when I was looking for a video on how to make a kilt, I couldn't find one. Someone told me to look up Robert MacDonald, and I did. And again, like I said, his teaching style is not my learning style. So it was really hard. He throws in bits of information, a little bit of conversation, and I just want to know, do this, then do this, and do this. And so that's what I'm attempting to do here. There's a couple problems with that right off the bat. Number one, this kilt isn't being made to instruct you. I am making a kilt for somebody, and I recorded it so you could follow along. What that means is I am sewing a dark kilt with dark thread, which means you're not going to see any of the stitches. And so what I did was made supplemental videos, and I'll show you these here. And then in the other videos, I will put them in again to refresh your mind on what we're doing. I wanted step by step, and I'm realizing how hard that is. It is very hard. So I just want to let you know that off the bat, this is my first kilt. And if you're my follower, you know I do shoot from the hip videos. I've never done before, but I think I can do it. Let's do it. So that's what we're doing here. Aside from pleating the back and taking it out a couple of times, that's the extent of my experience. Everything else you see beyond that is the first time I've done it on video for you. I am trying, or I tried to make this as straightforward, linear, like step by step as I could, and I might have failed. So just know that ahead of time. I tried though. As much as I wanted there to be, okay, first you do this and then you do that, there's not just one set of instructions. You'll have someone a professional who does it one way, and then you have another professional like Robert looks back on history and goes, okay, well, I think I can do better. And a lot of times, yeah, I saw that he could do better, so I followed him. But I also needed information out of the book as well. So now the hardest part for me, and I'm sorry, this part is not going to be helpful to you at all, because I'm not a numbers person. Math is not my thing. Numbers are not my thing. So what I did was I asked Grok. I told Grok I had this many yards of fabric. I need an uneven number of pleats, and I gave 31 or 33, and I want 3/4 inch pleats. Grok threw out so much math stuff. I had to scroll for like 15 minutes, and math I have never even seen before. I don't care about it. I don't want to know about it. Just tell me how many pleats I need and how big they need to be or whatever. So past all the math at the bottom, it said 31 3/4 inch pleats, which actually turned out to be exactly what I had done before. I just ran it through to make sure, okay, can I get it better? Did I do it wrong? I was correct. So run it by Grok. Now I'm going to show you 4 different types of stitches that you're going to need. And the reason why I'm doing this is because kilt fabric can be expensive. So I felt like it would be a good idea to put this video out first and give you a week or so to practice these stitches, because when you start sewing your kilt and these pleats, if you mess up, you really don't want to have to take those stitches out if you don't have to, because you clip a thread and you can have some problems. If you clip a yarn from the fabric, you can have some problems. So the first one will be a fell stitch. You'll use this on the fell part of the kilt, and that is from the waist down to the hip. That's it. You don't go all the way to the end. It's just from the waist to the hip. And that mine was like 8 inches. And then you're going to do a catch stitch, and that will be used to sew down the outer edges of your apron and under apron. I think that's the only place you do it, because I don't think you use them on the deep pleats on the inside of the apron and under apron. And then you're going to use a stitch that I've heard called a pad stitch, a slant stitch, and a herringbone. And this is to baste those folds in place. So when you do the deep pleats on the inside of the inside edge of the apron and under apron, you'll use this pad stitching just to hold it in place until the kilt is finished. And then you'll do that on the outside edges of the apron and under apron as well. So my goal is to have a video up once a week. I feel like that will give me enough time to fine tune the editing and give you a chance to work on your stitches. Now, I've got most of the editing, the bulk of it done, but I'm still actually undecided if I want to put out one full video or if I want to break it up. I'm not sure yet. So yeah, at this point, I don't know if it's going to be in one, the next video is just going to be one video or 2 or 3. So we'll see. Okay, this is the overview that I wanted to show you. I have recorded this so many times and it was either blurry, you couldn't see the lines. So I hope this is the last time. Okay, so assuming that this is an 8-yard kilt, these are not my measurements. I just chose measurements that will be easier for me to explain with. If this is 8 yards, you're automatically going to mark off a yard on each end. And from that yard, you're going to do a 1/4 yard here, a 1/2 yard here, and a 1/4 yard here. On this one, it's a 1/4 yard, a 1/2 yard, or 1/4 yard. So that it equals up 1 yard each. These dark areas are the areas I was explaining to. This would be the outside edge that gets folded under. These are the deep pleats on the inside of the apron and under apron. When you're making a kilt, the waist goes towards you because your fell is at this part here. I didn't write the line in there, but there would be a line there and you only sew down to that line. So once these dark shaded areas are tucked away, all that's left is this white area that gets fitted into this waistband. So if you're working with a 36-inch waist, you're going to divide that by 2 for the front and back. Then you add another 18 because the back is 18, the front is 18, and then you have another front because your under apron goes here, or under apron goes here, and your over apron goes here. So they occupy the same space. I hope that's clear. And then this 6 yards gets pleated into that 18 inches. And I hope that's clear. Okay. So for the hips, you don't do the same math. You do your hips, whatever that measurement is, divided by 2, and whatever that is, that number is the amount that you need to pleat that into. So if your hips, the back of your waist is 18, maybe the back of your hips is 25. So those however many pleats have to fit into 25 inches instead of 18 inches. So they're going to spread out a bit. I made mine the same. The waist was a certain measurement. I did the same with the hips because it was literally like 1 inch difference. And I am not doing that. I'm not going to stress myself out. This is my first one. I wasn't going to do it. So hip measurement divided by 2, whatever that number is, that 6 yards needs to go into that back measurement. I think that's how it goes. But I wanted to let you know that these shaded areas, I look at them like a bank of fabric. So this is the amount you allotted for. But if for some reason you gain weight, then you can take fabric out of that and add it to the apron, under apron, or the pleats in the back. And the same goes for these deep pleats. If you gain weight, you can have it resized and they'll take fabric from those areas. I think that's it. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. There's only one time that you cut any of this fabric, and it's only after all this is pleated. So you are constructing a kilt out of one single piece of fabric, except you didn't get enough length because you had the width to cut it and attach it here like I did, and you'll see that in the video. So I hope this is clear. I really wish I could have done a better job in documenting everything. So I hope you guys like it. I hope you can follow along, and I hope I at least partially accomplished my goals in making this as streamlined as possible. So let's get started on the stitches that I want to show you. The first stitch I'm going to show you is, okay, this one is the fell stitch. So I'm going to start it under the fold here, and this represents your pleat on the kilt. Now, when you're sewing the kilt, it's recommended you get 12 to 13 stitches for every inch. So it's going to be pretty small. So I start it just under the pleat so I can come straight up. I have to make them smaller than that. And it's really easy. This is called the fell stitch. Now, in the book, it talks about how you can also, you see where it came out here, go back a little bit and start behind it and come forward. It's like a back stitch in a fell stitch, sort of. So it kind of locks that in place. That's how I describe it. It's kind of like a semi-locking mechanism so that it doesn't just pull and pucker your fabric. So I would recommend that you guys just kind of, if you're new to sewing, that you take some time to just practice. And you see, I took some scrap fabric that I had, and I just made all of these sample things so that you can, well, I practice my stitches. So this is the first of the 3 I'm going to show you. So that's that one. The next one is going to be a catch stitch. And this is going to be where you do the deep pleats on the inside of your apron and under apron, and as well as the outside edge. And you'll understand when I get to that point in the video. So this one, let me show you what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to catch a little bit here. I made my knot too small. In my other videos, when I'm doing alterations, I don't normally use knots, but this is for construction. And so I just want to make sure that it's going to hold, and it's recommended by Robert anyway. And he's the expert, so I'm going to go by his advice. So you caught that little bit of fabric there. Right across from that, you're going to catch a little more here. And you don't have to worry about just grabbing a thread, because your thread's going to match your kilt. So I wouldn't catch a lot, but you also don't want to pull one thread and then end up it being pulled through the fabric and causing issues. So across from that, you'll grab a little bit more. And you could do it that way, or instead of going across, you can go, it'll look more like a zigzag. Sorry, the fabric is tightly woven, and I'm using new larger needles that I've just learned about. So I had to kind of put it down. It's easier to work on the kilt fabric because it's not so tightly woven. And then you come up here. And I think this is what you find more in books, more of that zigzag effect. You're just catching here, a little here. And then you're going to catch some here. I would probably keep these a little closer together, like, let me see if I can get them a little closer together for you. Now when I'm doing it, I'm not catching all the way through. So that's what it's going to look like. So that when you pull it and then you press it, you can't see anything, but you know it's there. So that is your catch stitch. And the last stitch, I've heard it called pad stitching or herringbone stitching. I'm honestly not really familiar with what type of stitch that it is. So I put a knot there. We don't need a knot because this stitch is when you put when you fold the pleats, the deep pleats, and the edges of the apron and unapron, you're going to use this stitch to hold everything in place. And you don't need to knot it because you're going to take it out. He runs it through the first time and then a second time, so it doesn't slip out. Mine still slipped out. I'm really rough doing my stuff. I don't know that these have to be any certain length or width. Just, I wouldn't pull like that because you don't want that pucker. You want it to lie flat. And trust me, it's so much easier going through kilt fabric because it's looser woven. And then somehow he takes this thread underside. I don't know. He doesn't have that thread there. I do. But like I said, it's coming out at the end anyway. And you'll see when I did it on the kilt, they were so crooked and so off. But they did their job. So I'm not worried about it. Now there is a part on the kilt where you will use this stitch to put in the canvas. And you might want to knot it there, but I thought there was one more stitch. So these are the 3 stitches: the fell stitch, the catch stitch, and I've heard it called padding stitch. I've heard it called slant stitch and herringbone. So I don't know if they're interchangeable or names, or if they might be slightly different. So those are the 3 stitches that I can remember right now. You know what? There's one more. Okay, so when you make your buttonhole, you're going to do your fell stitch. Once you get to the end of your fell stitch, you're going to do a bar tack. Now, I've heard of bar tacks before, you know, hand stitching, because I took a class in college, a fine dressmaking class. But I've never actually done it until I decided to make the kilt. So you have this base stitch. I did it 3 times. And then we're going to encase this in thread. So you're going to go down in this side and come up this side. And you know what? I don't know if he mentioned this or not, but because a single thread doesn't take forever, I'm going to do a double thread so I can get through this a little quicker. Now the fabric I'm working on is a thin fabric, so I can run my needle all the way to the other side, and it's not an issue. Let me cut this tail off so it doesn't confuse anybody. But when Robert is making, okay, my bar tack looks really bad. So that's just going to make sure that this doesn't tear. When Robert did it, he also went on the other side, because when you're dealing with tartan fabric, it is a lot thicker. He flipped it over and he did it on this side as well to make sure all layers of fabric were caught up in this. So I hope this is going to help you, because when I'm doing the kilt, because I didn't make the video for demonstration purposes. I was making it and I decided to film it. So you can't see threads. You don't really get to see what I'm doing up close. So I'm showing you ahead of time so that you'll know what stitches to use. So he would have it on both sides like this, because you do not want those stitches to let go when you're putting your belt strap in and out of the fabric. So anyway, those are the stitches. Again, fell stitch, bar tack, catch stitch, and padding, herringbone, whatever you want to call it. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.